Welcome back to Geek-Stew, guys, and of course, welcome back to Geek Rants with Ike. Yes, it is today. It is Monday. Obviously, when I'm recording this, it's actually Friday, but irregardless of that, it is a wonderful day to be here. I'm going to obviously edit and upload this over the weekend, so that way it's ready for you guys on Monday afternoon, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, typically. That being said, it's been a great time, and hopefully over the weekend, me and Salsa were able to stream. Hopefully you guys were able to enjoy that, and that'll of course be uploaded on Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that. In addition to that, today we're actually going to be talking about games. Speaking of streaming, we're going to be talking about some of my experiences with consoles / PC, and we're also going to be talking about an issue that I see with the modern consoles, and so that'll be interesting to talk about. But first, before we get into that, I hope you guys will enjoy this video. If you do enjoy this video, please give us a like, a subscribe, share us, all that good stuff. Turn on bell notifications. I don't know if that's still a thing that people tell you to do. I don't know. Anyways, follow us on social media. Links in the description as well. At the end of the video, we'll have all the links and the ads for myself and the actual channel. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump right into it. So today, guys, we're talking about consoles and PC. Alright guys, we're going to give you a little bit of a timeline on Ike. We're going to talk about how Ike has started playing games, where he started, where he's gone. So we're going to start at the beginning, and I'm just going to kind of roll through this, so hopefully I'm not talking too fast. But I started out with, of course, the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 is a great console. I played a lot of different games on this. This also led me to seek out additional games on other consoles that maybe weren't only on Xbox, or weren't only on Nintendo or whatever. But the Nintendo 64 was great. I will say as well that I'm only going to speak from the perspective of consoles that I personally owned. I have, of course, played the SNES and NES, as well as other consoles and other variations and other entities. But in regards to consoles that I physically held and possessed, Nintendo 64 was my first. After Nintendo 64, I had a very long stretch of playing the PlayStation 2 because the PlayStation 2 housed all of my PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games. Now, I did have a PlayStation 1 for a very brief period of time, but before I knew it, PlayStation 2 is here, and I was playing that hard and heavy and fast. PlayStation 2 is great, backwards compatibility, the whole shebang, and it also had some very early online gaming. I didn't get to experience that personally, but it's still very cool to acknowledge that, I had a console that was able to play online if only I had the means to do so. But after having that, the next major console that I had was the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 was probably the one I spent the most time on, if not the PC, of course. But around the time I had the Xbox 360, I was younger, probably early teens, like 13. And I was able to play online, of course. I was given Xbox Live Gold. Every Christmas, I would ask for Xbox Live Gold, 12 months, so that way it'd be good for the year. And then on Christmas, I'd get another 12 months, and I was good to go. I was a fucking businessman, man, let me tell you what. So I played the Xbox 360. Of course, I played the Modern Warfare games. Modern Warfare 2 is still one of my favorites. World at War is amazing. Call of Duty Black Ops. I was very big into first-person shooters, especially the Call of Duty games that had zombies. I really enjoyed playing zombies. So, Black Ops, World of War. And then, of course, I didn't really get into the latter zombie games. I have recently kind of gone back and played some of the older, or the newer Call of Duty games with zombies. And I am also excited for Cold War zombies, but I've not gotten to that yet. I will eventually, hopefully. But after the Xbox 360, of course, I got around to playing the PlayStation 3. Now, when I got around to the PlayStation 3, and there was kind of a period of time that I had the Xbox 360, but I didn't really play it as much because I kind of transitioned to PC. So I did play PC quite a bit in my early teens. I logged a lot of time on Counter-Strike Source. Incredible game. I still stand by it. It's probably one of my favorite games of all time. Probably one of the games I've played the most of, actually. But yeah, so, I had a lot of experience with the PC, but the Xbox 360 was also one of those consoles that I played a lot. So after this kind of weird period where I had the Xbox, but I didn't really play it that much because I was playing a lot of PC, I kind of transitioned into the PlayStation 3. So the PlayStation 3, the primary mode of transportation will be if I will, with PlayStation 3, the only reason I had the PlayStation 3 was to play Last of Us. And I bought it, played that, and I had a couple other ones like Bleach Soul Resurrection, as well as Resident Evil. I cannot remember the one, but it's the DS port. And yeah, so PlayStation 3 is kind of a very short period of my life, because eventually I sold the PlayStation 3 and I moved on to the Xbox One. The Xbox One has probably been the console that I've had the most turmoil with, and we'll get into that in a moment. And I also have the PlayStation 4. I actually bought that about a year ago, almost to date, because I bought it on a Black Friday sale for like $200, and I got God of War, I got Last of Us Remastered, I got Horizon Zero Dawn, 3 games with the console for $200. And this is the terabyte console too. So obviously I know the PlayStation 5 is coming out, but I probably won't get the PlayStation 5. I'm just going to pray and hope that basically all the games that I want for the PlayStation 5, that they're going to put on the PlayStation 4. I hope to get the Xbox Series X at some point, or Series S, but I just need to save up the money so that I can drop it on the console. Anyways, that was a lot. But basically what we're going to talk about now is basically my issue that I wanted to rant about, not just give you guys a history of Ike's gaming, because obviously I love playing games. I've talked about this a lot on the Control Over Z podcast. But specifically, the issue that I want to address is with the online play. That being said, with the Xbox, I obviously understand the Xbox Live process. The PlayStation 3, I will say, this obviously was, I want to say this was a product of a couple of things. When I had the PlayStation 3, there did exist a PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 had the ability to play online, but I think that you had to have PlayStation Plus to play online on the PlayStation 4, but you did not have to have PlayStation Plus to play online with the PlayStation 3. Or it was a situation where there were certain like abilities or certain functions that you could do online, but you just couldn't do all of it without the PlayStation Plus membership. That being said, with Xbox, it's always pretty much been, at least with the 360, it's always pretty much been that you really needed the gold to be able to operate online in any way efficiently. I don't think that you could be in a party with somebody to talk if you didn't have Xbox Live Gold. But irregardless, especially with the Xbox One, that evolution requires you to have Xbox Gold basically to be able to do anything. Same thing with PlayStation. PlayStation is a similar beast. You have to have PlayStation Plus to play online. I have Modern Warfare. I spent $60 on the game, and I've accepted the absolute punishing amount of updates that I've been given. But I still have to, in addition to paying for my internet, and in addition to having to pay for the game itself, I also have to pay PlayStation/Sony another $20 a month just to be able to play online. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit on the price, but irregardless, it still seems pretty, derivative and menial to have to pay them an additional amount of money just because, why? Because I want to play online. But irregardless, with the Xbox One, it's the same process, of course. But the thing that kind of led me to today's rant was that there was an issue with Xbox Live. So with Xbox Live Gold, you have what's called games with gold. So they offer up like 2 to 3 games typically that are free with gold. And I remember a few months ago, this is more than a few months ago, it's like a year ago, I had a trial. It wasn't a trial, it was a membership. Because it was like a 3-month membership, if I remember correctly. I remember I had like a 3-month membership, and on the last month, they put out the game Super Hot, which is a indie developed game on consoles and PC. And it's really great, honestly. It's a really interesting, really conceptual game that I think everybody should go play. It's very, very cool. Really, it is. But that being said, the game was free. It was free with gold, and I remembered after my subscription ended, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's not how it works. But after my subscription ended, I still had the game at my disposal. If I decided to go offline or whatever the case may be, with the Xbox Gold, that is, I still had the game in my library to play. Because basically they were considering it was basically you purchasing the game while you had gold. so that way you were able to play it while you didn't have gold. But however, recently they made an update, and the reason I think they made this update, and me and Salsa talked a little bit about this, but basically with Games Pass, which is the Xbox Live's essentially their version of a streaming gaming streaming service, essentially. They have what's called EA Games Pass or whatever, and it's a bunch of EA games like Battlefield and some Star Wars games. Basically, they combine the two catalogs. In addition, they also created what was called like Ultimate Games Pass, where it's both of the catalogs as well as Xbox Live Gold. And I think that by doing this basically incentivized them to say, well, if you want to play the games that you purchased while you had gold, you need to also have gold to play them. Basically, they'll always be there. They'll always be in your library. But in order for you to play them, you have to have Xbox Live Gold. Because I had Superhot downloaded to my console and it just disappeared one day. I'm looking around for it. I'm like, okay, where did my game go? Like, I literally had this on my console, and I Googled it and I got some answers. And then recently, me and Salsa, we were working on streaming from the Xbox actually. So we set up a month or so of Xbox Games Pass Ultimate because we wanted to be able to have some options in regards to what games we played. And we realized that there's a specific button you have to hit in your library to see your games with gold. And to see your games with gold, it also says, basically it's telling you need to have gold in order to play your games with gold, which is ridiculous. Initially, I purchased this game with the intention of being able to play it irregardless if I had gold. That was originally the agreement. I don't remember there ever being an issue with not being able to play it without gold membership. So my question to the Xbox would be in this situation is, why would you implement this? Because honestly, this just makes me not want to play your console. Don't get me wrong, PlayStation Plus does the same thing. However, they're very upfront about it. If you get a free PlayStation game from PlayStation Plus, they tell you have to have PlayStation Plus to play any of your cataloged free games with PlayStation, essentially. So they're very upfront about that. Very clear about that. Now, obviously, there are some games that they did just give for free. So, for instance, I feel like a few months ago, they just gave out the Nathan Drake collection because I honestly don't remember why specifically. But they did. And I don't have as much of an issue with PlayStation Plus in this regard. Obviously, I think that the issue altogether is bullshit because it is. I mean, why am I paying additional money to play online when I already pay for internet? I already paid for the console. I already paid for the game. So why am I having to pay you more money to play online? Which honestly begs the question as to why people don't get a PC. But that being said, we're going to transition into the final thoughts here. And I do have some thoughts about why people don't just purchase a PC and everything else. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to move into final thoughts of my Geek Rant. So final thoughts, guys. So basically, I'm not going to ramble too long. I say that every time, but I tend to ramble anyways. But basically, to kind of summarize why I feel like, people don't move to PC over console is because ultimately consoles are cheaper. Now, not over the lifetime, because typically a PC is good just as about as long as a console is. I mean, the bad thing about technology and the good thing about technology is that technology is advancing at such an alarming rate that things that were high-tech 5-10 years ago are essentially not the same in regards to power and everything else that they are today. Like for instance, you go back and you look at old computers. For instance, I used to have a old Dell that really wasn't, obviously the computer was not powerful whatsoever. It was a free computer from a contest I won when I was like a kid. And this Dell, I used to be able to play some pretty basic shit on it, but I remember the other day, I say the other day, but a few years ago before I moved, I plugged it in because I still had it. And basically this thing, it couldn't even function, basically. And that's one of the worst things about technology is that essentially, if you're not evolving and if you're not continually keeping up with all the changes and stuff with technology, then you're basically screwed. A little bit of coffee for you guys. So you're basically screwed. And that's how it is with consoles as well. and I guess this is speculation, but I mean, if you really think about it, when they produce a new console, they slowly but surely phase out any production of video games for the old console. When they made the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 had a brief year or so period where they continued to make games for both consoles because they're trying to accommodate people who couldn't buy the consoles at release. And they'll do the same thing when they bring out the Series S/X and they bring out the PS5. And of course, you know, that's just to be expected. That's part of the natural process, I guess, of consoles, is that, you know, you produce a new console, you phase out production of old games on the old consoles, and then eventually you're only making games for the new consoles. And then eventually you'll stop making games for the old consoles, you'll stop making the old consoles altogether, and you'll only make the new consoles. And then you'll only make the new consoles and new games for the new consoles for a while before you phase on to the next console. And then the cycle repeats, the circle of life, if you will, for video games. But with PC, it's a little bit different. PC is one of those entities where you basically have to do maintenance on your PC. You have to improve what's inside of your PC in order to continue to handle the demands of continuing graphic updates and everything else. You know, for instance, there are games that, you know, if you want to be able to run at like a high FPS, or if you want to be able to run it at a good resolution and graphic settings, you have to have pretty advanced you know, internals in order to do so. Now, obviously, I am no technology whiz, but this is obviously my understanding of the process. Basically, graphics cards and video cards from 5 years ago are not the same as graphic cards and video cards that are being produced today in 2020. That being said, PCs are typically, at least from what I've heard and my experiences, are going to be a better investment, but there's a lot more upfront required in a PC in order to get you to where you need to be. Because with Xboxes and PlayStations, you pay $400, $500 for a PC or for a console, and then that console's good for a few years before you have to buy another one. But with a PC, it's like you have to put in the capital. You have to be able to put in the money to make a good PC. And then every few years, you go back and you have to maybe do some updates to the PC to keep it competitive. But at least that's how I understand it to work. Obviously, I've not played on a PC in a while, and you know, and I don't have a PC at this time. But so I could be wrong. I could be misunderstanding all of that. But irregardless of my understanding of that, I still feel like there's definitely an issue with how that process works. Obviously, PCs are better. I would agree with that. PC over console any day. But I guess just from a monetary perspective, I find myself in positions where I may possess enough extra money to be able to purchase a console at a one-time purchase, but I don't always see myself having an inordinate amount of money to be able to purchase the contents and everything else for a PC. So I guess that's just an issue of maybe me saving money. I don't know. But irregardless of that, it's definitely an interesting conversation to have where basically we're getting screwed by these console companies. Truthfully, we're getting screwed by these console companies. I don't have any dislike for the console companies because I do have a lot of great history and nostalgia with them. But basically, every few years, they pump out a new console. We have to pay for the new console. It's more expensive. And then before you know it, they're pumping out a new console and got to pay even more for that one. And then in addition to that, there's the costs in the meantime. You know, you pay for your internet. If you want to play online, you got to pay for your membership. And then you got to pay for the games. And it's just a fucking pyramid scheme, let me tell you what. Anyways, done with that. Done ranting. But seriously, though, it is frustrating, especially with some of the new updates from Microsoft that kind of prompted me to have this frustration. And amongst other things, it is what it is, right? I mean, nothing I can do. Nobody at Microsoft's going to see this and be like, we need to change our policies now. But it is what it is, guys. All right, I'm done ranting. So if you enjoyed this video, give us a like, comment down below, or give us a subscribe. That'd be great. Follow us on social media. You can see those in the links down below, or you can, of course, see it at the end of the video. But I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, hope you guys are staying safe, staying happy, staying healthy, and we will see you in the next one. See you guys.